Welcome to Biz Tips with Jenny Rice, bringing you insights from real entrepreneurs. No fluff, just raw, practical strategies from those who've been in the trenches. Whether you're launching, scaling, or pivoting, this podcast is your backstage pass to lessons, successes, and game-changing tips. Get ready to learn, take action, and level up. Let's dive in with our next guest.
Hi, this is Jenny Rice with Biz Tips Podcast. I'm very, very excited about our guest tonight. We have Janine Firpo, who is the co-founder of Invest for Better. Welcome, Janine.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, very excited to have you. So tell me a little bit more about your background, what you got, where you came from that got you here today.
So I have a very interesting and kind of circuitous background. I started out in my professional career in the technology industry back in 1981, before there were actually personal computers. So I go way back in tech. And I originally came from the Bay Area. And when I got into the tech industry, I had moved away, but I gravitated back here because that's where this was all happening. And I had an amazing 15-year career moving through the tech industry. Worked at Apple Computer in the 1980s when we were changing the world one computer at a time. And then in 1995, I quit a job that I had for a backpacking trip. I did a solo backpacking trip to sub-Saharan Africa for about 5 months.
Wow.
I was there, I saw unbelievable poverty. And I decided on that trip that I was going to figure out how to use my talent to solve the problems that I saw and to try to help make the world a better place. So I came back. When I left, I had been in something called the multimedia industry. And when I came back, something called the internet had come online. And colleagues were running to that. But I didn't do it. And I ended up creating a second career of over 20 years, looking at the role that technology and business could put to solving poverty. And because I was doing that work, I was involved in a lot of the conversations in the Bay Area that started evolving in the late 90s, early 2000s around impact investing, which is the idea of how do you do well financially at the same time you're making a positive impact in the world. And although I was not wealthy like many of the people involved in that, as I listened more to these conversations, I realized, I made all these changes in my career. I took huge pay cuts. I walked away from the internet just when it was taking off, and my money's undermining me. My money is actually invested in ways that are helping to create and perpetuate the very problems I'm trying to solve. I've got to do something different. And so that started me on a very long journey. It's been about 20 years now of trying to figure out how to align all of my money, starting with my cash, in ways that align with my values. And I had financial advisors helping me, supposedly, but they didn't get me where I wanted to be. So when I retired from my career about 7 years ago, I took my money back. I started looking at this and I realized we were at a point in time when anyone could invest this way, and women and millennials want to. So I decided I'd been through the ringer on it and I was going to try to help other people do this more easily.
That's amazing. What a great story. Not only inspired by your travel, but inspired by the impact that you want to make, right? So yeah. So tell me more a little bit about your nonprofit, because it sounds like you're doing amazing things both for the women investors and for the benefits of the people you're investing in, right?
Right. So I actually started, when I first started down this path, I decided the thing to do was write a book. So I actually wrote a book during COVID. It's called Activate Your Money, Invest to Grow Your Wealth and Build a Better World. And it was written for women. And part of the reason I wrote it for women is because there's very little out there that's actually written for us. Most of what we learn about finance and money and investing comes from a very male point of view. And I wanted something from a woman's point of view. There's more coming out now, but when I started, there was not a lot out there. And I always wanted the book to be used by women in groups, because this is not something, although men learn about money on their own or by talking to other men, we don't do that very often. We And it's not something you really want to learn solo. It actually is a lot better to learn about your money, to think about your money, to talk about your money with other women who can give you their experiences. And I know for myself that the times that I have learned the most about money is when I've been in investment clubs. So I wanted the book to be used that way. And while I was writing the book, I met another woman named Ellen Remmer who lives on the East Coast. And she was putting women into investment clubs and teaching them how to align their money with our values. So I was like, hey, we should do something together. And so as we got to know each other, we realized that would be a great idea. And when my manuscript was done, she and I joined forces and we co-created Invest for Better as a nonprofit. And what we've been doing is we put women into small groups of 8 to 20 individuals, and they go through a facilitated curriculum that leverages my book and teaches them how to start thinking about their money and how to step into their financial power, how to grow their wealth, but also to be really conscious about the things that they're invested in and how to make choices about what they want their money to be building. So
That's
we've had
great.
about 2,500 women go through our training so far.
That's great.
Yeah.
So they work together, they come together, and then collectively together they look at opportunities. They help each other to say, what are your values? How do you prioritize them? And then make decisions to invest in. Is that how it works?
So we don't force anyone to invest or do anything like that, and we don't recommend investments to people. We are an educational organization, and so we start by just talking about your stories around money. What do you think about money? How does that matter to you? We look at what are you invested in right now? Do you even know? A lot of people don't know, and we teach them how to really understand that, really understand what they're invested in. We help them think about their values. How, if you're going to invest your values, what are they? And since you're not going to get everything you want in this imperfect world, how would you prioritize the things that you do want? And then we start going asset class by asset class and talking about how you could think about that asset class differently. So, for example, we start with your bank, where you have your savings and checking account and what your bank is likely doing with your money and how you can make choices that would support people in your local community, or that would be supporting of climate forward technologies, or that would be supportive of smallholder farmers, or whatever else it is that you care about. There are ways to choose banks to help advance those goals. And then we do the same thing with the stock market. We teach women about private investing and how they can think about becoming angel investors, which is something many of us never even consider, that we have the ability to invest in small private companies. And the reason that's important for women to learn about, even if they're not ready to do it right away, is because if you look at all the venture capital that's invested in this country in a given year, only about 2% of it goes to female CEOs. 2%.
That's amazing.
2%. So women founders have a really, really difficult time raising money. And we're often told by the men who are doing the investing, well, there just aren't good female entrepreneurs. They just don't have the right businesses. And it's actually not true. And in fact, Kevin O'Leary, who's the kind of mean guy on Shark Tank, he says that over the 20, 30 some years of angel investing that he's been doing, 75% of his profits come from female CEOs. Oh, this story that the women aren't there and that the women don't know how to build these businesses isn't actually accurate. And they do a great job. In fact, they outperform men, but there just aren't enough people willing to take the risk on women to invest in them. And so more and more women are stepping up as angel investors or private investors and helping to provide that money to women.
So not only are you helping the women investors invest in something of value, but you're helping the business owners that need that angel investment to succeed in their businesses, which is amazing.
Exactly.
Double benefit.
Yeah.
And you're creating awareness so people know that, hey, not only am I making money, getting ROI on my investment, but I'm making an impact. I'm not investing in things that I don't believe in, right?
Exactly. And you can do that in every asset class. And an asset class is just simply a category of investments. So as I said, your cash is an asset class. Cash is an asset class. The bond market, fixed income, that's an asset class. You can do this with that money. You can do it with the money that's in the stock market, which is another asset class called public equities. You can do it in private. You can do it in real estate. I mean, you name the area that you're interested in investing in, and there's generally a way that you can think about that area with a values lens.
That's great. That's great. So tell me more about your involvement. And you're the co-founder. How do you do from day to day managing the business, and what are you involved in?
So I work pretty much full time, just like I always have, even though I'm ostensibly retired. I laugh because I say the only thing I really retired from was a salary. But, it's like I can't imagine with the level of energy that I'm blessed to have to not be working and not to be making an impact. So, in addition to being the co founder, I'm the president. So, I basically run the organization right now. We're fairly small. We have about 5 or 6 people who work with us. And so I manage that. I'm involved in the strategy. I help do a lot around creating our content and our course curriculum, figuring out where we want to go next, building partnerships. I mean, the thing about it's even though we're a nonprofit, we're kind of a startup, right? So we've been around a little less than 4 years. It'll be 4 years in September. And we're a startup business. And so, like any startup, what you do as the leader of the organization changes. So you have a set of problems, you figure them out, you solve for them, and then a new set emerges. And so on those and you figure them out. And that's part of why I love doing this is because it's constantly changing. I'm constantly learning, and there's always another challenge or opportunity to address. So that's what keeps it fun. That's what keeps me invigorated. And that's what keeps me working full time in my retirement.
Yeah, that's great because you're bringing all your skill sets to the table, right? Learning from all your background and things like that. But as you said, when you're running an entrepreneurial business like this, even a nonprofit, there's a lot of changing things going on. As you grow, you expand. There's new opportunities, new challenges, like you mentioned. So it needs a flexible leadership to do that too, right?
Pivot, pivot, pivot.
Pivot.
Constantly pivoting. Always. It's part of the name of the game. If you're not paying attention to your customers, your market, the need, what's changing, and you're not ready and able to change what you're doing to meet that, alteration, then I don't think you're really doing your job completely.
Yeah, I agree totally that being an entrepreneur these days is being able to react and pivot and change and adapt and be agile, with what's going on because it's never, change is inevitable, right? And I find change exciting. I find it, interesting to say, what's next? What can we do next? And that's part of the fun of it too, right?
100%. I
Yeah.
completely agree. I've had so much change in my career, in my life, and I look at those things as opportunities to learn and grow, expand, and meet more cool people. I mean, I've had that opportunity to do it as well. There's a lot of really amazing women who are involved in helping other women with their financial power, and there are a ton of amazing young entrepreneurs or just of any age actually, but female
Right.
entrepreneurs.
And how do you, certainly, how do you promote yourself? How do you find women investors?
So that's interesting. So when I started doing angel investing myself, I did it with a group of other women. So there are actually angel groups that are women focused and women dominant, I would say. And so they're very welcoming. They love having new people come in. And so that's what I did. That's how I got started was I joined with other women and I learned from them. I learned how it works and they attract entrepreneurs because the entrepreneurs know about these groups and the entrepreneurs go to them specifically to seek out capital. So it's a great way to learn.
Right, that's great. That's great. So, what about some challenges you faced as you're managing this nonprofit, educating, doing things like that? Just for our listeners, they'd love to know what are some of the things you had to overcome.
So I think in this day and age, one of the challenges with anything, particularly when you're pretty small, is getting attention. There is so much noise out there. There's so many people vying for attention. There's so many people that, social media is become a morass, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. And so we've just been incredibly selective with how we do that. In fact, most of what we do in the social media space is done on LinkedIn because it's a pretty neutral space. It's not a space where there's a lot of ugliness going on. I don't know about you, but that's just not worlds that I want to be in. And it also speaks to the kind of audience that we're looking at, which is women who actually are at a point in their life where they have enough capital that they want to invest. They can be early in that journey with big dreams of where they want to go. They can be farther in that journey. But in order to really benefit from what we do, women need to at least be at a place where they have some capital that they have already invested or that they're planning to invest. So LinkedIn tends to be a vehicle that we
Yeah.
use. I think getting above the noise is really difficult. And so we also have past members will talk to other people about their experiences, and that will help
Yeah.
us market ourselves too.
But what I love about what you're doing is you've niched down to where people are going to know, yes, I am aligned with Janine and her people, where people might say, no, that's just not on my journey. And that's okay. But people, I think, will really gravitate towards you, or women will, because, oh my God, that's where I want to be too. This is what I want to do. So it makes so much more sense to really connect with that audience, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find it different being in a nonprofit versus working in, corporate America for profit? Is there a difference in how you manage the business?
I think it's really different. I mean, yeah, I mean, some aspects are and some aren't. So, for example, I think one of the things that I learned when I was doing angel investing is the thing that causes most companies to fail is a lack of product market fit. So thinking that you have something that people really want, but they don't actually really want it, or putting it out there in a way that they're not really interested in. So that piece I think is critically important. And I think that's true for nonprofits as well as for profits. We kind of run our nonprofit with very much of a business mind, although we're not looking for income to be sustainable. If we really wanted that, I think we could get it. I think we could charge a lot more for what we do and get to a point of profitability. But our goal is to reach as many women as we possibly can. And so we don't want money to be a barrier. We don't want a price tag to be a barrier. So we offer what we do for a ridiculously low price. Our courses are 8 parts, go over a 4-month period, and our costs like $125. That's it.
Wow.
So it's not a lot of money at all. So we're not driven by that profit motive, obviously, which makes it a very different vehicle to run from the financial perspective. But we are driven with a for-profit mentality in that we want to make sure that what we're delivering really matters and that we're having an impact and we're achieving the goals that we have. And so part of the way that we think about scaling, for example, there's no way that we could reach or teach all of the women that we want to. I want to impact millions of women. Not going to have millions of women coming through our trainees. Even if I was a for-profit business, I think it would be very hard to make that happen. But one of the ways that we are looking at scaling is letting other people who are interested in what we do, who are financial advisors or financial money coaches or women running groups of women, to empower them in different ways and letting them just take our content, our courses, and run with it in their own organizations. They can even run with it under their own brand. So we're really looking at how through partnerships can we expand and how can we empower other women to take what we've done and build side businesses. If somebody else goes out and takes my content and makes money off of it, I'm okay with that.
That's great. That's great. You're really motivated from that altruistic perspective to say, I want to make an impact, and that everybody will win from that. And which is great. I love that you're so open about it too. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very inspiring. I can't wait to in the years to come, read more about you and the impact and, the recipients of the investment too, and how they're thriving and benefiting and things like that. I just see this as a win-win-win all around. And I love that you're having fun while you're doing it too.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't fun. It has to be fun.
Yeah.
The other part about it that I really love, and not to diss men, I love men too, and I'm married to one, and I have a lot of male friends. In fact, I've often had more male friends than I have female friends. But um, I love how collaborative the women I meet are, and how willing they are to just say, yes, I'll share. Yes, I will work with you. Yes, I will help you. It's wonderful. I love working in that kind of a way where the people who are showing up in this space are showing up with a similar goal, whether they're for-profits or nonprofits, with an interest in supporting each other.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah. Very inspiring. And I guess when you go to sleep at night, you're saying, wow, I made an impact today, which is really cool. Love it.
yeah.
Well, great, Janine. It's been great having you as a guest on there. I've learned a lot, and I love your mission. I love what you're striving for, and I wish totally great success. And hopefully, this podcast can help get the word out even more.
I would love that. Thank you so very much for having me and for letting me speak a little bit about what we do. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I really enjoyed having you as a guest. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So this is Jenny Rice signing off with Biz Tips Podcasting. Thanks again.
That's a wrap on this episode of Biz Tips. For more insights, join us online. We share exclusive tips, resources, and strategies to help you grow and scale your business. Until next time, keep building, innovating, and making an impact.